The streets of Lusaka, Zambia, were no place for a child, but for 10-year-old Kato. The cracked pavements and dust-covered alleys were the only home he knew. His shirt was once white, now a muddied gray. His shorts were torn at the edges. His hair tangled like weeds in a forgotten field. But perhaps the most noticeable thing about him were his hands. Long fingers, black with street grime, and nails so overgrown and jagged they looked like claws. People looked at them and turned away in disgust. Kato didn't care anymore. He was used to it. The stares, the whispers, the rejection. He ate from trash bins and slept under broken buses. He only had one friend, a stray dog he named Moto, who followed him everywhere. Every morning, Kato woke up to the noise of horns, vendors shouting, and the clink of coins. Not for him, but for others who looked less like a ghost. He had no parents, at least none he remembered. He knew hunger more than he knew love. He knew the sting of police batons better than the warmth of an embrace, and he knew how to disappear into a crowd without being noticed, or cared for. But fate has a strange way of noticing the forgotten. One evening, just before sunset, as Kato sat on a street corner scratching Moto's ears and watching passers-by, a man parked his motorcycle nearby. He was different. He wore a clean white shirt, had neatly braided hair, and carried a small leather bag. His eyes were sharp but kind. As he stepped out, he looked directly at Kato. Not through him, at him, and then he said, "Hey, little man, what's your name?" Kato froze. No one had asked that in years. Moto barked softly as if urging him to answer. "Kato," he whispered. The man knelt down. "Kato, I'm Moses. I run a small barber shop just a few streets from here. You hungry?" Kato nodded. "Good. Come with me. Let's clean you up." It was the first time anyone had seen Kato, truly seen him, and everything began to change. Moses's barbershop wasn't big. It had only 2 chairs, 1 mirror, and posters of celebrities with stylish haircuts taped to the wall. The air smelled like aftershave and fresh soap, and for Kato, it smelled like a new life. The other barber, a cheerful woman named Auntie Grace, gasped when she saw Kato. "Lord have mercy, this child's been through a war," she said, shaking her head, but Moses just smiled. "He's a rough gem. We're going to polish him." They didn't ask too many questions. They simply got to work. First came the bath. Kato stood stiffly as warm water washed over years of grime. His nails were trimmed, his scalp scrubbed, and his teeth brushed for the first time in memory. He felt like he was shedding a second skin. Then Moses sat him down on the main chair. It was big and padded, the kind of seat only important people sat in. Kato trembled a little. "Don't worry," Moses said, draping a cloth around him. "This chair isn't just for haircuts, it's for transformations." With scissors, clippers, and careful hands, Moses snipped away the wild curls and shaped a clean, smart haircut. When he was done, he sprayed some cologne on Kato's neck. Auntie Grace brought out a set of donated clothes. Clean jeans, a shirt that fit, and small black shoes. Then Moses turned the mirror. Kato gasped. He didn't recognize himself. The boy in the mirror wasn't a street kid. He looked like someone going to school, someone with a home, someone who belonged. "You see, Kato," Moses said gently, "the world treated you like you were invisible. But I see a model, a star." "A what?" Kato asked, blinking. Moses smiled. "There's a small fashion show happening next week for underprivileged children. They need raw faces, I think. You've got the kind of look that could silence a room." Kato's heart raced. Him? A model? It sounded like a fairy tale. But for the first time, he wanted to believe. The next few days were a blur of excitement. Moses taught Kato how to walk, confidently, how to hold his shoulders back, and how to smile without fear. Auntie Grace even taught him a few dance steps. In case they play music on the runway, she laughed. They entered his name into the Hope for Tomorrow Youth Showcase, a charity fashion event held in the city center. It was meant for orphans, street kids, and children from shelters, but Kato stood out from the very first rehearsal. His walk wasn't perfect, his movements were raw, but his eyes, they held pain, strength, and something else. Hope. On the day of the show, he wore a simple but smart traditional outfit with African prints, provided by a local designer. His shoes shined. His hair was trimmed to perfection. His nails, finally, clean and short. When Kato stepped onto the runway, the lights hit his face and the audience went quiet. He walked. He walked like he belonged, like he had never eaten from trash bins or slept in gutters, like he had always been someone. When the judges announced the results, Kato didn't expect anything. He just stood holding Moses's hand, happy he wasn't invisible anymore. But then the host called. And the winner, with a look that captured every heart, is Kato. Moses clapped loudly. Auntie Grace cried, and Kato stood there, shaking, as a medal was placed around his neck. In the audience, a woman from a modeling agency scribbled something into her notepad. That win was only the beginning. Kato's photo was published in local newspapers under the headline, From Street Child to Runway Star. The story touched hearts across the city. Donations poured into the shelter that took him in after the show. Moses's barbershop saw more visitors than ever before. And Kato? He got a call from the Ngoma Modeling Agency, one of the biggest youth talent organizations in the country. He was offered a scholarship, not just to school, but to a modeling academy for young talents. Years passed. Kato grew taller, stronger, more confident. He never forgot Moto, the loyal dog who stayed with him until the day he moved into the shelter. He visited Moses and Auntie Grace every week, bringing them gifts and stories from his shoots. And one day, at just 16, he walked the runway at the Lagos Youth Fashion Week, representing Zambia internationally. As he stepped off the stage, a journalist asked him, "Kato, what would you say to your 10-year-old self?" Kato smiled, eyes shining. "I'd say, don't ever think you're too dirty to be seen. Sometimes it only takes one person to believe in you, and your whole world can change."